Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we'll be doing a first look at the game Kursk South Flank. This is a Panzer Grenadier game designed by Mike Perryman. It is from Avalanche Press. It is one of two games in the Panzer Grenadier series that deal with Kursk. The other is Burning Tigers, which is the northern side of the battle. And this would be the southern, as you might guess from the title. Now, this is actually the boxed version. Avalanche Press has gone to kind of a Ziploc format. They call it playbook format, I believe, but it comes in a Ziploc bag and it's got all the contents in it. It's just not a box. So it actually saves some space, but you have to store it a little bit differently, obviously, unless you have some spare boxes around, which I'm sure some of us likely do. Anyway, I do want to give a quick shout out to Rockin' Bee Games, and I'll throw their website URL in the description for the video. They've got some pretty sweet deals on games based on how much you buy, and free shipping at a low threshold, like $49 something. So check them out if you're in the hunt. I did buy this from them, and so I thought I would give them a quick shout out because they're one of my favorite online retailers. Not a sponsor. I don't have any of those. Just a shout out for a game retailer that I like. Anyway, all right. So let's take a look at the back here, and as you can see, right, this was from a few years back, 2016. There is a reprint of this coming, I believe, in the new format, the boxless format. It has the then new 4th edition rules. Those are the current rules. 2-player game, as is true of all the Panzer Grenadier games, but most of the scenarios, I should say, are fairly easily soloable. 30 minutes to many hours, that's true. You get 200 meters per hex, and the units are platoons. So I have done this game, or this series rather, not this specific game, for my platoon level tactical series, as one of the several series that I've talked about. So this is not the first time you'll be seeing Panzer Grenadier here on the Hexed Encounter channel. So what do we have? Let's see, we've got 680, I think that says. It's hard for me to read. Or is that 880? That is 660. Man, I think glasses would help you be able to read stuff. 660 2/3 inch square counters and markers. 4 17 by 11 inch boards. Those are your map boards, right? Every game comes with them. 16 pages of rules specific to this game, in addition to the base rules, and 50 scenarios, difficulty level 2. Solitaire play, excellent. Got a sample of some of the counters from the game. Pretty standard Panzer Grenadier look here. And you've got some map samples. Now, the cool thing, I guess, if you want to call it that, is that the southern flank of the battle, and it says it right here on the battle south flank, Soviet guards met the Waffen SS Panzers. So you had the elite forces from both sides taking each other on in here. So I'm going to crack it open and we'll take a look at what's inside the box. Okay, let's slide it out of its sleeve. And this blue box. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is the game-specific stuff. So your basically your rules. Actually, why did it say 16 pages? This is way more than that. Anyway, this is not 16 pages, and there's only special rules for this particular entry. You can see there aren't that many. But that's the specific rules. This is the system rules here with the player aids tucked inside and the counters as well. So let me put this off to the side for a moment. Now, as I said, I've done several different Panzer Grenadier games, as well as some infantry attacks, which is the World War I version. So I won't really do my usual in-depth rules overview because I've done other videos on other games in this series, and if you've watched any of those, You've seen that. You can also watch the gameplay videos and see the rules in action. But I'll just kind of go through it briefly, just so you can see kind of what's in here. The system is not particularly complicated. So you have your introduction, right? And then you have your concepts, basically, right? So kind of just a list of things that you'll read in the rules, kind of an explanation of what they are, right? Foot, a type of movement involving the walking, running of humans and animals rather than the use of vehicles. That includes bicycle units and cavalry. Okay, so non-mechanized, basically, right? Then you have night turn stuff. Here's movement type. Units move as one of 6 types: mechanized, motorized, towed, foot, air, and naval. In the components, playing pieces, most of the pieces represent military units, right, as you would expect. And here is an example of that. So this is worth looking at a little bit in depth, right? We've got, this is obviously a 50 millimeter gun. So it tells you your unit class, and it uses your unit type symbology here, NATO symbology. The ID number, which is not in all games. Its movement factor. Now this is unlimbered, so obviously it doesn't move. This is your anti-tank fire rating and your direct fire ratings. Then this is a mortar, so this is actually a foot unit. Movement is 1. Unit class, unit type, 81 millimeter mortar. Indirect fire. So you have, obviously you have direct fire, which is like rifle fire, basically. It's, your basic fire, not armor piercing, not anti-tank. Then you have your anti-tank fire, and you have indirect fire. And this, of course, would be a Panzer IIIN. So this is an armored unit, a mechanized unit, and you have a national insignia, right? That's on all 3 of these. These are all German units, actually. But you see the armor symbol. It's movement, and then again, it's direct fire and it's anti-tank fire. Now, these are colored on the actual counters, as we'll see in a little bit, but that's just what it looks like. And then, of course, there are leaders. Leaders are important in this game series, as they are used to activate units, and they provide modifiers, as you can see here, a combat modifier and a morale modifier, and they have their own morale as well. So morale and leaders play a pretty big role in Panzer Grenadier system. Okay, so then we've got our sequence of play. We'll talk about that really quick too. Your initiative determination. So you roll, it's a roll off basically, and you add your initiative, which comes in your scenario instructions, to determine who gets the initiative. If it's a tie, you roll it again. And then you subtract the loser total from the winning total, divide by 2 and round up, and that gives you the amount of initial activations they'll get. So, or action segments, I guess, is what they call it. But basically, if you rolled, so here's an example. Player A with an initiative of 3 rolls a 5, that's 8. Player B with an initiative of 2 rolls a 3, so he has 5. So A wins initiative by 3, divided by 2 equals 1.5, you round up to 2, and can take 2 action segments before player B takes his first. So that's how that works. Like I said, pretty simple. You have you have that, then you have your action phase where everything happens. Then you have your marker removal phase at the end of the turn, essentially, and you move on to the next turn. So you have moved and fired markers for the units, and once they do one of those, they're basically used and can't do something else, generally speaking. Then you've got your action segments, and so this tells you what you can do. So you have a single unit can activate itself, a leader can activate himself, and then if units are stacked together, they can activate as a stack. Again, there's some exceptions to that, but generally speaking, that's how that works. Then, of course, we have leaders can activate. So a single leader activating and directing a chain of units and lower ranking leaders in several hexes through subordinate activation. That's kind of a neat thing where you can chain a bunch of units and leaders together by a higher leader, like a major, let's say, activating captains and lieutenants who are under him and are within his range that you can get a whole line almost of units active at once, which can really be a decisive move for you. And that's talked about right here with subordinate activations. Then you've got stacking limits. Okay, so stacking limits, pretty straightforward. You get 3 combat units, 3 transports, which would include armored personnel carriers that could be loaded with 3 combat units, and then any number of leaders. So you could have a decent amount. Of course, combat units inside APCs don't give you anything, but you can see that you have a lot. And then, of course, there are rules for transporting units and leaders. Things about your APCs, a column modifier. So if you have 3 combat units, you suffer a +1 combat, +1 column modifier on direct and bombardment fire because you're clumped together. That's a lot of units in a 200-meter hex. These are each platoons, generally speaking. And then, of course, movement. We've got the movement rules. Pretty straightforward. You've got your 6 types. And naval and air, they don't play into all of the scenarios, only occasionally. River crossing rules, units can become disoriented. That's like a scenario special rule that doesn't always come into play. Dragging weapons, foot can drag, if they have a movement allowance of 3 or more, they can actually drag some of the weapons, 25 millimeter, 37 millimeter, and 2-pounder anti-tank or 20 millimeter anti-aircraft weapons, and others as specified in the game special rules. Then you got leaders and the rules for activating them and so on. Okay. Then after that, you got your combat rules. Combat's really straightforward. You can see black, and this is on the counters, like I said. And when we saw I know it was in black and white, but black is direct fire, outlined in white is bombardment fire, and red on yellow is your anti-tank. That's basically your fire types. Then there's also assault, which I think is in its own section. Well, it does talk about assault here. That's just for step losses. Spotting. So, of course, you're going to have spotting rules, right? And they give you some examples. So they have spotting range. You have limited terrain. Some games call it like hindrance. Things like that. Elevation, of course. So you have your line of sight, and then you have spotting, right? So you can see with the examples here, like in this example, you have A. If they're targeting B, so A to B here, you can see A is in kind of a wooded hex, and B is in kind of a field. And you can see that it's A, B, line of sight, yes, spotted, yes, within 3 hexes of limiting terrain. Right, so you get a whole table here that lists examples just based on this box right here to show how all of that works. It's really not that complicated. Then you've got bombardment fire, and 9, direct fire, anti-tank fire. So your bombardment fire and indirect fire are kind of the same thing. It's mortars and artillery, essentially. And you do have some scenarios have off-board artillery. Then here's our assault rules. Assault is also fairly straightforward. Opportunity fire rules. Morale is very important in this system, as it is in many tactical systems. They all kind of try to take that into account in some form. Special unit types, things like aircraft, right? Armored trains and naval vessels, cavalry, penal units, flamethrowers. Special rules for strong points and casemates, digging in, wrecks, entrenchment, leaving and entering, exiting the board, minefields, caves. There are some Pacific entries, I think. Well, I know there's Saipan, and there are some add-ons for that as well. Then you've got a bunch of optional rules that we won't probably talk about. But you can see that there's a decent amount in here. But like I said, even though this is, 20-some pages, 40 pages, it's really not that bad. And then for the game-specific stuff, pretty straightforward as well. Special rules. All-terrain rules from Panzer Grenadier 4th edition are in effect. You have light woods that are treated as limiting terrain. except that just one Lightwoods hex does not block line of sight. So you can trace line of sight through one Lightwoods hex, but cannot trace it through 2 or more. Trails are treated as roads, except that movement point costs for moving along a trail are foot 1, motorized 2, mechanized 1. In addition, add 1 to the movement allowance of each active leader or foot unit that only moves along a trail in any given turn. SS ranks, because there's SS in this game, so their Standartenführer is a colonel, etc. They all have Führer in the name. Prime movers, armored fighting vehicles, APCs, just special rules for all of this stuff. Tank leaders, all German tanks and all Soviet Guard tanks have tank leaders. Scenarios featuring RKKA, that's regular Red Army. Tanks list the tank leaders available for those tanks in the leader section. All German tanks have armor efficiency. The Guards tanks also have armor efficiency. We didn't talk about that, but we will when we do gameplay. RKKA tanks do not. Soviet submachine gun units may use tanks as transports, except for the T-70. German units cannot. Rocket artillery, there's rules for that. We've got flamethrowers. The Soviet FLM engineer unit is armed with flamethrowers. Target hex and also the 6 surrounding hexes are affected by that. Dragging weapons, again, we saw the rule. I actually went through it, but in this one, the Soviet 45 millimeter anti-tank, German 20 millimeter anti-aircraft gun, and 75 millimeter infantry gun are the only weapons that can be dragged in this game. Then you got the artillery restriction for Soviet artillery units. Soviet artillery units had a difficult time reacting to German troop movements during the Battle of Kursk. For this reason, Soviet leaders may not spot targets for Soviet 76.2 millimeter artillery units for bombardment, fire purposes, and any scenarios in Kursk's south flank. They have to spot their own targets. Okay. Then there's an optional rule for reconnaissance and intelligence. Soviet military intelligence units did an excellent job of mapping out enemy positions prior to attacks to simulate this and to give beginning Soviet players a leg up. Soviet player may attempt before game start to place spotted markers on German units which occupy limiting terrain hexes. So they have to roll. They roll 2 dice for each German hex that contains limiting terrain, a German occupied hex. On a roll of 9 or more, they place a spotted marker. I don't know if we'll use that or not. Then we have our scenarios. There are a lot of scenarios typically in a Panzer Grenadier game. This one is no different. You have obviously scenario 1 and scenario 2. So you can see you get the basics, right? You get a list of what happened, right? A kind of a setup here, a description. The board that you're going to use, in this case 38, with the 38 at the top left, because these boards can be oriented in different ways and joined together. It's a 12-turn game. Starts at 0700. Nothing else there. Then you've got elements of the Thule Regiment and Tiger Company of the SS Death's Head Division, which enter anywhere on the south edge, and then this is their makeup. Then they've got their leaders, and morale for Tiger is 8-7, and all others 8-6. That's when their reduced morale is the second one. They get 2 off-board artillery, and their initiative is 3. And then the 52nd Guards Rifle Division is the Soviet unit. They get some reinforcements. It's set up the same way. It tells you who's in here, their leaders, and then here are their reinforcements. And then your special rules and your victory conditions. And then this tells you the historical outcome of this setup. There are a lot of scenarios in here as we go back towards the high 40s in pages. Actually, it does hit 50. Last page is 50, so, and that is scenario 40. So you get 40 scenarios. And we have our player aids. These are fairly straightforward as well. This is our turn track. As you can see, each turn. So here's 12 noon, 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. is at the bottom, and it's 15-minute increments. Okay, and it's got a nifty little thing here for spotting range based on the time. So you can see how your spotting is affected by daylight, essentially. And here we have our assault chart. And on the flip side, the bombardment chart. Then you have anti-tank fire on this side and direct fire on this side. And it gives you the key of what the results mean and all your column modifiers, which there are a decent amount of. And then here's our TEC. Now, the TEC might be the only thing about this series that I don't really enjoy all that much, only because it's just a list and there's no... I like the graphic that shows you what it looks like, because sometimes it's hard to tell. But that's a minor gripe to me anyway. But it tells you basically the movement cost for your various types. Can they entrench? Can they dig in? Its effect on spotting and its other effects. Pretty straightforward. Now, an anti-tank ditch would have -1 direct fire, first fire, engineer remove in 3 turns, which means it can remove it. Other foot in 5 turns. Then we have our counters. Looks like 4 sheets. This one is the markers. So this is system markers. You get this with pretty much everything. So here are moved, fired markers. Here's disrupted. On the back will be the demoralized side. Sorry. Illumination, smoke, spotted, etc. Dug in. So a lot of these serve 2 purposes. You can see these are all moved, fired on this side, but on this side you've got dug in, spotted, riverbank, entrenchments, illumination, disruption, wrecks, and so on. That's your marker sheet. Here we have counter sheet 1. So these are Russians, as you can see. Now this over here are regular, I think these are the regular forces. Let me check. No, sorry. Yeah, that's right. These are your regular forces. So these are your regular Red Army, right? Infantry, obviously. You've got submachine gun unit right here. You've got your armor, and it tells you the type. You know, here's a T-70, T-34C, and so on, right? These are your leader counters with the various ranks. You've got colonels, majors, captains, lieutenants, and then all the way down to sergeant and commissars as well. And they're all 2-sided. For your guns, you can see there's a limbered side and an unlimbered side. The unlimbered side's over here. These would be your guard units. So they are slightly better quality. And they also have your basic infantry, your submachine guns, etc. Then the armor down here. There's also guards armor, including some Churchills. So that's kind of neat. And you got trucks. These are Germans down here. And then we have some aircraft as well. Got some IL-2Ms and an IL-2. Then we've got some Henkels here, or Henschels rather, sorry, and some Stukas as well. And these are your Germans. So these are SS. And so you have your basically your squads here. They also have armored cars and some tanks, some Panzer IIIs here, some mortars, etc. And then you got some of the, different Panzer IV, Panzer IIIJs, etc. So lots of, and then the things like the guns here. I know it's kind of hard to see. Heavy machine guns, etc. So that's that. And then we have, last but not least, the maps. So there are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They all have kind of the muddy look to them, I would say. So this is map 38. This is the one for the scenario we were actually looking at. I'm just going to turn it sideways rather than mess with changing the camera zoom and stuff. So you got some town here. We've got fields. You got some light woods. Got some elevation here, and it tells you the elevation 20 and 40. So that's map 38. They all have this kind of brown mustardy kind of look to them. This is 37. You have a road. And here is 36. Farmland, pretty much. Looks flat. Got a little bit of woods here and some fields. And lastly, 39. So this one also has some elevation on it. And again, some buildings. Here's some elevation. So pretty straightforward. And the maps will be used in various combinations to play your 40 scenarios. So this year, for the 82nd anniversary of Kursk, I will be doing some gameplay of this. And you can look for that later this month. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, found it at least moderately useful. So if you would consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing to the channel, that would be fantastic and always is appreciated. Thank you to my subscribers who have already subscribed. And comments, questions, put them in the comment section. That's what I always say. But thanks for watching. Hope you'll come back and check out something down the road. But I'm done for now. I'm Joe. This is Hex Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.